G'day mate, 40 here. So, notice a lot of people want to pray their way out of a problem that they've behaved their way into. All right, so I don't think you can just pray the gay away, for example, without doing anything else. Like if you've behaved your way into an addiction to gay sex, I don't think you're just going to be able to pray your way out. And I notice with a subset of Christians that their first response to a problem that they don't know how to deal with is, well, I'll just ask people to pray for me. And that's great, but I don't think you're going to pray your way out of a problem that you behaved your way into. So let's say you have a problem with eating too much food or drinking too much alcohol or looking at pornography or debting or under-earning or codependent relationships or an addiction to, say, an extreme amount of exercise or an extreme devotion to sports. All right, you behaved your way into a problem. I don't think you're going to pray your way out. So I developed early on in my life a habit of maladaptive daydreaming. Well, it started out as adaptive. I would just start daydreaming and my problems would disappear. So I just kind of bliss out when I was daydreaming. But this tendency for me to daydream and to think of myself doing grand and fantastic and important things, that reflex of mine to just kind of bliss out on fantasies of grandiosity, I'm going to pray my way out of that. Like prayer can help. That's only one component. So also I notice a lot of people think they can use religion to get out of whatever problem that they're in. Well, if you develop neural pathways that lead you to eat too much or to use porn or to have too much gay sex or to have an unhealthy relationship with credit cards or to under-earn to debt, to have unhealthy relationships, right? You behaved your way into that, then I don't think you're going to be able to simply use religion to get out of a problem that you behaved your way into. When we do something, we fire neural pathways in our brain. And then neurons that fire together wire together. And so we develop maladaptive reactions to stimuli. Or recovery means that our reactions to stimuli serve us rather than hurt us. And it's so easy with a lot of the process addictions to fool yourself, to think that you're making progress when you're not making progress, or to think that you're not making progress when you are making progress. So I was just listening to somebody talk today about how his sponsor gave him a list of about 10 things to do every day, and if he does like at least 6 of them, he's making progress. So that might mean, one might mean make outreach calls to people in your program. Another assignment might be to read 12-step literature. Another assignment might be to get on a meeting. Another assignment to pray. That's one component. Another assignment is to meditate. Another assignment may be to track your spending. Another assignment may be to track your time. So I notice a lot of people I know, they have a 40-hour work week, but they're only actually working maybe 15 hours of that. And they're just goofing off the rest of the time. And then they're wondering why they're always getting fired. Or they're stuck in a cycle where they just can't bear to work. So they just play Spider Solitaire. Is that a game? Or some other distraction instead of doing their job. And they know it's not good, and they know it's not going to work out, and they know they're on a path to getting fired. And it's an awful feeling to go around knowing that if your boss knew how you were really spending your time at work, he would fire you. If your coworkers knew how you're really spending your time at work, they would see to it that you were fired. It's an awful feeling to go through life like that, because you essentially have to live a lie, because you know that if people know who you really are, then you are in big, big trouble. And I don't think you're going to be able to just pray your way out of that as the one solution or ask other people to pray for you. You have to set up ways to change your behavior, and you have to get clear. So clarity usually means tracking your time. You've got an 8-hour workday. How much of the time are you actually working? And are you making priorities? If you got too much work to get done in 8 hours, are you making appropriate priorities? And if you've got a underrunning problem, then track your time, not just at work, but elsewhere. Are you watching 3 hours of Netflix a day? Is that serving you? And then how are you spending your money? Like, you should be able to track how you spend your money so you know where everything's going, and make sure that you are using it to further what's most important to you and not get distracted. So we behave our way into all sorts of problems with sex, drugs, food, alcohol, relationships, money. And then it's so tempting to think there's like an easy way out. It's like, oh, I'm just going to pray about this. I'm just going to ask people to pray for me. I'm just going to go back to church. I'm just going to go back to shul and daven 3 times a day. That means prayer. And I remember I'd often say to my therapist, I just wish there was like one small change that I could make so that then my life just completely transforms. Like, I just want to make, one improvement here that just has, multiple repercussions, positive repercussions all through my life. And my therapist would push me to make, big change, large change, dramatic change, painful change. And I just wanted to do the minimum. I just wanted to let me just make one little improvement here and then everything's going to be okay. Right? That's what I thought for decades. If I just change this one variable, that everything's going to be fine. Or if I just embrace religion, then that's going to get a handle on my out of control sex life. If I just embrace religion, that's going to get control of my out of control love life. My need for constant, excitement and infatuation. If I just get religion, that's going to help me get control of my spending and my earning and my work life and my housing situation and my health. And you can get control, say, of your porn addiction, but then I found that my addiction to acting out on social media just skyrocketed. Like, when I stopped using porn, that I started posting like crazy on Facebook, not things that were necessarily in my best interests. I find I get control of porn addiction, the sex addiction, the love addiction, then the acting out for attention or food or watching too much sports starts rearing its ugly head. And I've always wanted to take the easy way out. Let me just finesse this. And taking the easy way out has been really, really hard path for me. It has not been pleasant. I developed habits in school of cheating. And I managed to break that habit by the time I got to community college. So I only cheated one time in community college and never did it again. So I managed to break that habit, but still that instinct of trying to take the easy way out, it's just there under the surface because I fed it for so many decades of my life. Let's look for the easy way out here. And sometimes for me, seeking the easy way out is seeking repair of my life through religion, when religion is not going to be the primary component to repair that aspect of my life. I made this radical transformation from atheist to converting to Orthodox Judaism, but that's not going to change any of my addictions because I behaved my way into these addictions. And I'm pleased with my religious conversion, but it didn't shift any of my addictions. It didn't shift any of my habitual expressions of bad character, such as being inconsiderate. Right? That's something I really struggle with, being sloppy, careless, and inconsiderate of other people, inconsiderate of how my behavior, how my words, how my choices, how my effort or the lack thereof impacts on them. So lack of consideration for others, major character defect of mine that I just can't pray my way out of. Prayer has been a component, but I behave my way into these character defects. I can't just use religion, and it doesn't just wipe out my tendency to lack of consideration. I just take my tendency towards lack of consideration for other people and for myself into my new religion. So I've not tended to behave with much consideration towards myself or with others. So I find that people treat themselves considerately tend to treat other people with consideration. And people who don't treat people with consideration tend not to treat themselves with consideration. And then dishonesty. I developed a habit early in life to avoid getting hit. I would tell lies. And so I developed that habit of dishonesty when under pressure to try to avoid punishment. And prayer and religion are just a small component of dealing with that character issue, that bad character addiction of dishonesty. Self-seeking, selfishness, all right, another two major characteristics of my behavior over the course of my life, and I just can't pray those away. And it's not that, on the other hand, from a Toss perspective, I don't work on my character, but there are all these things that I do to bring God in. So God's there in the small, still voice, I believe. Or if you don't believe in God, then embrace reality. Like, reality is there. And you can listen to reality or you can ignore reality. And I want to have a positive relationship with reality. So if I'm able to turn down the unnecessary noise in my life and reduce the clutter in my life, then the small, still voice of God or the small, still voice of reality, however you frame it, then I can start to hear it. So when I'm overwhelmed, I find it really helpful to clean and to organize. So I think, Wednesday afternoon, I spent 3 hours carpet cleaning my whole place, moved everything off the carpets, moved everything around, took 3 hours, just carpet cleaned the whole place, figured out what was wrong with my carpet cleaner, took care of the issue, got everything clean, looking good, smelling good. It was tiring. I'm still tired from that. I don't know what muscles, I don't know why my hamstrings are so tight from carpet cleaning and moving and shifting things around. So, 36 hours later, my hamstrings are tight. Still a little tired from that exertion, but cleaning things, organizing things, possession consciousness really helps to reduce my overwhelm. Also, when I'm frustrated with people, I find writing a long email to them and not sending it. So do not put their email address on the Gmail draft. Just write it all out. So I've been waking up at 4 a.m. sometimes, like last Sunday, and just writing a long email to a person who was frustrating me, and didn't send it. I just wrote it, made it shine. It was a fine piece of writing. Talked about it with a friend. And then my inner drama queen kind of started to quiet down. Writing everything out I find incredibly helpful because I tend to be overly dramatic, overly excitable. I respond in an excess way to a stimulus, jumpy. And have a natural tendency to seek out drama, to feel dramatic when there's no inherent need for drama. Be just excitable, overly sensitive. And so if I just write out everything that I'm frustrated about or feeling or perceiving, I find it incredibly calming. It never ceases to calm me. And it never ceases to give me a feeling of satisfaction. It's like, wow, that's a great piece of writing, even though it's just a rant about my emotions. It's fine stuff. Good job, 40. Yeah, so writing things out, talking them over with other people who I respect. And then prayer and meditation is a component. I find spending time around people I respect is a component. Making outreach calls is a component of a successful life. Getting on a 12-step meeting, sponsoring and being sponsored, reading 12-step literature, listening to inspiring talks or watching inspiring videos or reading inspiring books. So I'm reading a book right now by a guy I interviewed about 2 years ago, Herb Lobdell. So he's a judge, and he wrote about navigating the legal system and finding a spiritual path. It's like, whoa, finding a spiritual path while navigating the legal system. It's a pretty good book on Kindle. That's it. Bye-bye.